What is up, TAC? Welcome to the first episode of 2019. My name is Dr. Ray Daniels, and this is the Artful Chiropractor Podcast. And this week, I'm so very happy to bring to you Dr. Bobby Ilijasevic. We met at the Remarkable Practice training seminar in October of last year, and I got to hear him speak and connect and work with docs, and he just has mastered the art of communication. But of course, he's still on the path, and he'll tell you that himself, but he has created successful businesses. He was on the stage, but yet he was jumping down and diving into the training groups that we had, and I really just connected with him, and I was like, I want our group to hear what you have to say. And of course, he has an Australian accent, and anyone who has an accent, I'm automatically about 35% more inclined to listen to what they have to say. I know that has no objective measure to it, but that's where I'm at. A little bit about Dr. Bobby and his bio. After graduating from chiropractic school 6 years ago, Dr. Bobby Ilijasevic went on to build the practice of his dreams, a huge 7-figure family-based practice completely centered around principled chiropractic care and the art of the adjustment. With strong roots in chiropractic principles and philosophy, Dr. Bobby is a passionate speaker, having spoken over 450 times to his local community to date, educating and empowering people to take action and live their life to their full potential. Working with practices around the globe, Dr. Bobby also regularly coaches chiropractors on how to create their own remarkable practice as a part of a remarkable life. Following proven systems and procedures for practice growth and success, Dr. Bobby has now seen hundreds of practices also create more freedom while creating bigger impact in their communities. It is Dr. Bobby's strong commitment to the chiropractic principles and the communication that allowed him to win the coveted Better Your Best competition in the Ultimate Achievers Club, an intimate group of high-performing chiropractors from across the globe. Dr. Bobby is an example of what is possible when committed to developing an intimate understanding of chiropractic philosophy, underlying proven systems and procedures. Dr. Bobby is definitely a high-performing expert, and I'm so excited for you all to listen and to get some of his golden nuggets and hear his experience of what he's been through and how he's got there and the systems and strategies and routines and components of his life and his business and his practice that are just mastered to the point that allow him to fully express his art and who he is to the fullest. A few things that we talk about are mirroring and matching what he was able to do to get to where he's at, especially in the beginning, the art of communication in business, and how people love to be measured and checked, and that brings, happiness and fulfillment, and people want to have progression. So these are all awesome topics that we go into. We talk about reverse engineering success and first defining it before we chase it, and then some of the breakthroughs that he's had in his relatively short career, and he's been able to create a lot already. So I'm excited for you to listen, and I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did recording it with him. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Bobby Ilijasevic. Dr. Bobby Ilijasevic, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yo, Dr. Ray. Thanks for having me, brother. I'm super excited to connect with you, man.
Me too. We've been working on this timing for a little while now, so I'm glad it finally worked out. You being 19 hours ahead of me.
I know. I do a lot of work in the US there, and I always say we're a day ahead. So it's Wednesday here. In case you haven't noticed in my accent, I'm in Australia, but I can tell you Wednesday is going to be a rocking day, man. You're going to love it. It is good.
Hell yeah, man. Cool stuff, dude. I was putting together these notes and I'm like, I have so much written down right now. I don't even know if we're going to get through a quarter of it, but just to give our listeners some context, I got to hear you speak at the Remarkable Practice training and just really connected with you. And it, we were diving into systems and different things like that, but yet I just felt still such a natural and authentic expression that I was really drawn to it. And sometimes when systems gets thrown around, it just becomes this very robotic, procedure. So I was excited to dive into that with you. And I know we're going to go into it, but you shared your story a little bit. You went to a super mechanistic school and kind of had that experience. But then you got some coaching through school, and then really out of school just totally turned things around. So I'd kind of love to hear your story a little bit going into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an interesting story. Like most of my friends and colleagues, and I've had the pleasure to work with some of the biggest names in chiropractic, and everyone's got like this cool story, right? About they got adjusted and the light got switched on, and or they were having these splitting headaches, or something was happening, and chiropractic saved them, I guess you could say, or helped them on some massive level. I was the complete opposite, dude. So I got into chiropractic school because I thought it was a good idea. I studied a bit of kind of human anatomy and physiology and things like that through high school here when I was going through high school in Sydney, in Australia, where I'm from. And so I thought, let's do something health related. Hey, this chiropractic thing, it's close to home. I enrolled in this university literally down the road from me. It sounds pretty good. And so there I was, right? And I'm going through this course. And the school that I was going through, which I didn't realize at the time, but of course I realize it now being so heavily involved in the profession, is like the most ultra mega mechanistic school that you can find, right?
Right.
So it's like one of those ones that signs that paper about getting the word subluxation removed and all this crap that we just hear, right? And so I'm going through this school and literally, I'm going through, I'm learning all the techniques and skills, and I'm in my final year of school. We do 5 years of study here. And so I'm in my final year, final semester, and I start to realize like a few things. I start to realize that, there's essentially two kinds of chiropractors out there. There's chiropractor A, who seemingly was having this amazing life. So they were just loving being in practice. They were killing it. They were having boatloads of people come in. They practiced when they want. They practiced on their terms. They just had like this, essentially this remarkable life, right, as part of this awesome kick-ass practice. But that wasn't the norm, right? I could see there's a certain percentage of people that were like that, but the overwhelming majority was in this second boat of people that were just struggling, right? They didn't like it. They looked for any external circumstance they can blame. Oh, people don't get it. Oh, marketing is too hard. Or, they would just blame anything under the sun, and they really almost despised their profession. They despised this thing called chiropractic as if it was to blame.
Right.
And so I kind of set on this adventure where I was like, all right, I want to figure out why that is. And so pretty early in my career, when I was in that final year of study, I decided to invest in my first coach. I was like, all right, I'm obviously missing the ball in a lot of things here, and I want to learn from the beginning, from the onset, what are the right things to do. And while it was a big, scary investment at the time, right, and I had all these contracts and stuff at the time, which was, scared the crap out of me.
Right.
It was just, it was just something that I thought I had to do. And so over the course of the next kind of 3 years, things just really kind of exploded for us. So my first year in practice, I started as an associate for somebody else, and I started on zero, right? I was building a practice from scratch, man. And within about 2 years, that practice had grown pretty consistently. Like it wasn't setting the world on fire. I was doing a pretty good job. I was probably adjusting maybe, 150, 200 people a week, which is all right. And it's never about the numbers, but I was happy, but I felt like I was kind of like this Ferrari that just couldn't be unleashed, right?
Nice.
And then I, really kind of stumbled upon this thing, these systems and processes, and realized that there is a way to make practice easy. And I realized that, chiropractic practices, so vitalistically, principally sound practices, have been getting built for decades, right? You go back to BJ and Didi, and really for decades and decades and decades, they've been getting built up, right? And so I started to discover these principles, and over the next 2 years to 3 years, I went out in my own practice and things just exploded. Like we built a couple of $1 million practices, 7-figure practices in the space of about 2.5, 3 years. And these are chiropractically focused, principally driven practices, which means the only thing we do is adjust in there. We don't sell supplements, we don't sell anything. We sell the Generol, that's it, for helping with spinal correction, right? And then everything else is purely in the back of adjustments. And the more that, the deeper that I went with my understanding in the science, the principle, the art, the philosophy, just the deeper my love and passion for this thing called chiropractic grew, and then the bigger and bigger my practice grew. And so that journey, man, over the last 6 years has been pretty incredible, because I didn't have any miracle chiropractic story. I didn't have any family or relative or dad or brother. I was the first one in my family to go into chiropractic. Right. And now there's 7 of us in chiropractic, right? Cousins, stuff like awesome. That. So I say, dude, if I can do it, man, anyone can do it, right?
Totally. So what comes to mind, I got to backtrack a little bit. So you're going through school and you're just naturally, all right, starting to study success of the successful chiropractors and the ones that just aren't really, getting it done. They're not loving chiropractic. They're blaming different things, circumstances. Where did that come from? I mean, that already right there sets you apart, because that's typically not what the average, I would say student is going to do. I'm curious, did you have any influence younger growing up? Like, you still you didn't have this miracle story, but yet you wanted to study people who were really successful. I mean, that in and of itself kind of separates you on some level. So I'm curious, so you got that from parents, or what drove you?
Check this out. Yeah, totally, bro. Awesome question. So check this out, man. It was two things. One thing was, there was always this inner part of me when I was going through school that thought, it's not going to be just as easy as go out there, put a sign up like they say, and people are going to come in. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there was a part of me that was like, it can't be that easy. It's not how life works, right? That was one part of it. And that was a pivotal part. But the second part of it really was when you go out and you do internships. Okay, so the way that we have to do it here, I know it's the same there in different institutions, is you have to adjust a certain amount of people, right, in your final year of study.
Right.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's safe to say some people got their numbers super quick and easy, right? And other people struggled, and on the last day literally of the year, they were still trying to get their numbers. Is that what happened in your year, dude? That's happened in my year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right?
And, I mean, people had to stay, longer and more quarters and different things like that. It's a rough experience for a lot of students, for sure.
Dude, totally, man. We had people in my year that were like repeating that. They were staying like the following year for another couple of months. So even right there, man, I noticed that like in school, some people are getting their numbers within a matter of months, and other people are taking like over a year. And it made me realize that there we are, we're all on the same level. We all studied the same material, right? We all did the same subjects, and somehow they plant us into practice, and people then start to diverge and go in different directions. So that was a big wake-up call for me, man.
That's fascinating, man. And then, so you got into this coaching while in school. Is that something that you recommend students to kind of go through a similar process? Because I think there's controversy to that on some level, but I mean, it served you so well, to have that coach going through the last year of school.
I mean, look at it like this, man. Take chiropractic out of it. You look at any business, okay?
Yeah.
Any business, anyone who's trying to build a business of any sorts, the number one thing that holds you back is blind spots, which means things that you don't know, that you don't even realize you don't know them, right? And I just want to backtrack just for a second there, because if you look at, the world-class business builders and trainers, and you look at people like Tony Robbins, they teach this model where they talk about levels of mastery, right? And maybe you've heard about it, right? But I just want to share it with you. They kind of essentially say there's 4 levels of mastery. And the bottom level of the pyramid, right? So the lowest level of mastery is what they call unconscious incompetence, which means that, like, to put it lightly, you're crap. I can say crap, right?
You're good. You can say whatever you want on this one.
All right, sweet, man. I just got to double check, right? Yeah. So you're crap, man, and you don't even know it. Not you, but like that's level of mastery, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's crap. They don't even realize they're crap, lowest level. Now, you then kind of transcend. You go to the next level of mastery when you have conscious incompetence, which means you're crap, but you know that you're crap, right? And so you start doing things to start to learn and to master, and where should I focus my energy and time and money, right? Now, eventually, if you continue to do the right things, focus in the right areas, you move to the 3rd level of mastery, second one from the top, which means you're consciously competent, all right? So you're good, right? You're real good. But to be good, you have to think about it. You have to engage, as BJ would say, your educated brain, okay? So you have to think about it. You have to, it still isn't burnt into your innate, it still isn't burnt into your nervous system. You can be good, but you got to switch it on to be good, okay? And then the top level, man, the 4th level, right, which is the ultimate level of mastery, is unconsciously competent, which means the way I describe it to, like, when I'm training docs or DCs or associates is you're the freaking man and you don't even know how you're that good, right? It's just that burnt into your DNA. You just innately know what to say, how to do it, how to execute it. And it's part of that kind of that nervous system, kind of activating system where you've just done laps around the track. It's burnt in there and you just can do it on command. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so that's that kind of level of mastery that you build through. And I started, and it's a time process and focus in the right areas. And so going back to your question, for me, my advice has always been like, find that kind of mentor, find that coach, surround yourself by people who you resonate with, because they will highlight your blind spots, man. They will illuminate your blind spots that you don't even realize that were there. And the quickest accelerator, Napoleon Hill talks about this in Think and Grow Rich, the quickest accelerator is find someone who's doing what you want to be doing and learn from them. That's your biggest shortcut to success. Richard Branson talks about that all the time, bro.
Right. And that's what you mentioned, just the mirroring and the matching. You know, everyone asks you, like, what's that main thing? And you shared it with me on our pre-chat last week, but just spending time with those people that are doing what you want to be doing. And now we don't even have to be in person. We could be listening to them. We could be watching videos. We could be doing all these different things. So that's such a huge point.
Dude, we are living in like the best era possible. I know people say this all the time, right? Oh, this is the best time for chiropractic, right? And I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it. But seriously, with the way that the world is connected now, like we can get on this phone call like this, we can chat, right? It's, you know, back in the day, 30 years ago, to mirror and match or to get blind spots highlighted, you got to go hang with the person. You got to fly out, right? You got to spend all this time, energy, and money. Now, man, you can do it virtually. You can still do it live, which you should be doing as well. But it's just so easy, dude.
Right. Yeah. All right, man. That's a good transition to, you know, something that you shared with me of just like defining success is super important because you're going to ultimately chase it, or I don't know if chase it's the right word, but that's what you're going to be going for your whole life. So it's super important for you to figure out what that is. You know, I would love for you to expand on that because everyone's going to have a different definition of the type of practice that they want to build. And I mean, our listeners, I mean, they could range so much on what success would look like, their ideal day, their ideal experience for the people they take care of. So I would love for you to kind of expand on that a little bit and how that's kind of had an impact on your life, because you've grown, you know, you've created some really successful businesses. And yeah, kind of curious too if you've ever caught yourself chasing success and maybe it wasn't what you thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? Yeah, the failures and all that is all part of the fun. But
yeah,
you know, I was once taught by a mentor early on, which just really helped define me a lot. Where they said, "Be careful, like you said, how you define success, because you're going to spend a lifetime pursuing it." Right? And I just thought about that for a moment and let it kind of burn in a little bit, and it was so profound because success, that word, it's so different for every single person. You know, my version of success will be completely different to anyone else that's listening to this, right? Wherever we are in the world, it's different to yours, Dr. Ray. Like, everyone's definition of success is different. So first thing that you want to do for me is you need to spend a good amount of time, and I regularly do this with my wife, like a couple times a year, especially now end of the year. Sit there and like define and work out, all right, what does an ideal life look like, man? Right? And don't hold back. When I was told to do this when I was in fifth year, I felt a bit icky about it. I was like, what do you mean an ideal life? And the guy explaining it to me was like, well, think about it, man. Let's say 3 years' time, we're sitting here, we're having this conversation, and you say to me, dude, I'm loving it, right? Like, life is just so good at the moment. I'm really happy. I'm satisfied. I'm fulfilled, like on all 7 quadrants of my life. I'm just super happy. How does that look? You know, what are you doing? So then be really specific with it. How many people are you adjusting? How many shifts are you working? How much time off do you have? What's your ideal body weight, right? How are you lifting at the gym? What are your measurements when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? You know, where do you live? What area do you live in? How does that area look? How does it feel? What car do you drive? Exactly. What make is it? What model is it specifically? How does it look? What color is it, right? You know, who do you surround yourself with? Who do you call your friends? Who do you say like your friends are? What about your mentors? Who are like your top 5 mentors? And just go through this like experiment where you sit there and you really define it and you carve it out and don't hold back. And if we get 10 people to do this, man, we'll get 10 different stories. You see that, right?
Totally.
Yeah. But the first thing we're going to get is we're going to get a story, dude. And then, you know, the first iteration of it, you'll get an okay idea. But over the years, as you start to do this, and over the months as you start to do this, you really start to get super clear on what are the things that drive you and what are the things that you value. And what is the order of those values, right?
Totally. And something that you said really quick is over the years. So it's like, it's something that you continue to do. Because sometimes I'll sit down and be like, all right, the 1 year, 3 year, 10-year vision type of thing. It could be overwhelming because I'm like, is that going to be the same in 5 years? But it appears, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, it's this constant check-in too. And you're constantly kind of adding to it, taking things away or pivoting based off of where you're at currently. But it's
absolutely, bro. Some people say, oh, goal setting doesn't work. You hear that, right? Or New Year's resolutions, 90% of them fail within the first month. You've heard that, right?
Right.
Yeah. That doesn't mean goal setting doesn't work. It just means that you suck at how you goal set. And that, right? And then it means there's ways to improve it, because you talk to so many higher level operators and there's just too many of them that will say to you, goal setting is where it starts. Carving out the ideal picture is where it starts. Too many of them say that for it to be chance or for it to be luck, right? So it is a process, but what most people do, man, is they'll spend some time maybe on the Sunday Arvo, they'll get a diary out, maybe they'll get a diary out, maybe they'll write it in their phone, I'm not sure, right? But they'll spend like 20 minutes out carving it out, and then they'll get inspired for a moment, and then they'll put it away, and then they won't look at it again for who knows how long, right?
Yeah, I'm guilty. I've done that, I think, definitely through college a little bit.
Me too, man. I mean, I did it too, right?
Yeah.
There's some parts of my life that I still do it in. But it's this journey, and every time when I've done it, I've just got that little bit better, that little bit better, that little bit better. And it's those tiny 1%ers that add up, man. And when they add up, that's what really kind of makes the pivotal shift, and that's what just transforms you to the next level.
Yeah, that's huge. Because I was just sitting yesterday kind of going through 2019 and broke it down for my goals in different areas, and then kind of reverse engineering it by quarter. And that was something that was a big takeaway for me, is it's like, all right, I have this big yearly goal in these different areas, but now what will that look like on a quarterly basis? And then you can kind of derive some action steps on a much shorter term that it seems it's much more manageable.
Oh, man, you just hit the nail on the head. Like what you just said is so profound, that like really take a moment, especially when you listen to this, and just reflect on that for a second. Because they say the best way to eat an elephant, right, is one bite at a time. You've heard that saying. Mm-hmm. And so what that means is, we sit there, we all have these lofty goals, right? You've got them for next year. I've carved out mine for 2019. I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast has at least put some thought into, like, what are some goals for next year? But then what often happens is, from where they are now, the goals is where they want to go. That action step in the middle is where things kind of go haywire, right? And so John DeMartini taught me this actually early in my career as well. He said, backwards engineering is one of the most powerful laws that you can utilize to hit your goals. So you start with your yearly goals, right? Backwards engineer that into a quarterly goal, right? Let's talk about something chiropractic. Let's say the amount of new patients. You're in practice. Let's assume you want to build next year, or you want to maintain. Mm-hmm. You're going to need a certain amount of new patients to do that, right? Okay. Unless you want to shrink, then that's a different story. But if you want to grow, you want to maintain, you're going to need a certain amount of new patients. So you sit there and you go, okay, how many did I have this year? If you're just starting off, that answer is going to be 0, which is why you've got a small, you're not seeing anyone. But you might look at that and go, okay, I want to get for the next year 500 new patients, right? And then you chunk it down. You go, okay, if I'm going to get 500 over the year, how many do I have to get per quarter? All right, let's just make it easy. Quarter 1 will be 200, quarter 2 will be 300, right? Let's just say we need 300 for quarter 2. All right, fantastic. So how many people do you need per month? So quarter 2, we're looking at April, May, and June. So look at your calendar then, pull it out, look at April, May, and June, and go, okay, if I'm going to see in this quarter 300, I need about 100 a month, right? You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And you go, where am I going to get 100 a month patients in from here, right? And then that's where the systems come into it. Because there are systems that are proven and reproducible that bring in new patients. And when you execute them properly, they'll produce new patients. If you don't know those systems, you need to learn them, right?
Yep.
But then you put that in your marketing calendar to the point where you break down every week, bro. Then you break down every day. And then I break down every day into like my hourly calendar. What am I doing every hour? So from 7:30 a.m. until 11, I'm adjusting. That's adjusting time, okay? But then what am I doing from 11 till 3? Okay. If you know systems for getting new patients, you put them in at that point. Or let's say I'm adjusting from 7 till 11 or 7:30 till 11:30 in the morning. Okay. We, for example, in our practice, one of the main pillars that we do is we do dinner workshops. So we love doing dinners. Awesome freaking event. There's a way to do them properly, and they're great for bringing new patients. Now, dinners are filled through report of findings that are starting care. Okay, there's a system to this. So I'll look at it and I go, okay, from 7 to 11, we're doing a group report at the end of that. How many people are coming in? All right, well, there's 8 reports coming in. Great, let's assume that 6 of those are going to start care. Of those 6 should be getting to dinner. So then I put that on my daily planner to make sure that that process is followed properly so that end result happens. You got what I mean? Every single hour can get broken down, man.
Just broken down from the year all the way down to the hour. I love that, man. And that's a good transition into systems. You know, I shared with you last week when we were talking, my own perception over time was that the more systematic you get, that would maybe take away from ultimately your self-expression of who you are and being authentic and real with people. And, you know, the story I've told maybe in my head is just like, oh, I'm going to memorize this script. I'm going to say this when you say that. And, you know, it would take away. I mean, this podcast has all been about artistry and the expression, but in all these different areas. But like you shared, and which I really resonate with, is like, you know, everyone has a system, and whether or not you believe it or not, you're using that system, and you can use these systems and then have them down and then still be able to bring in the flair, because people are going to see that, but you can have that underlining system so people can get the greatest benefit from what you're providing them, and they can get that consistently over time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, spot on. So I mean, look at it like this. It's actually the opposite. Having properly, first of all, defined and then refined systems actually is what allows you to be set free. Do you get what I mean?
Totally.
And it's what allows you to be able to have that artistic expression and be able to express yourself uniquely exactly how you are, okay? Because here's the thing, man. I mean, I've had the pleasure of working now with hundreds of DCs, and the number one thing, and if you're listening to this, you might resonate with this, the number one thing that lets DCs down is that we get into this profession because we love to serve and we want to be of service and we want to have our own unique artistic way of expressing that. Right? Then suddenly we realize, hey, there's all these other things that we've got to think about. Oh, crap. From like, did the CA pick up the phone the right way? Oh, guess what? My person who's just started care, my practice member who's just started care has gone out the front and the CA didn't say something properly and now that person isn't scheduled in how they should be. Right? Or, oh, man, I've got these bills to meet next month. Or, oh, my insurances need to be paid. Or, do the telephone. Or do the overhead. Or they suddenly find themselves wearing all these different caps. And the more and more that happens, do you think that adds to their artistic expression or it takes away from it?
Deletes it, man.
Deletes it, bro, to the point where next thing you know, there's this person who's been out in practice, could be a few months, could be a few years, and they're like, this is not what I thought chiropractic was going to be. This is not what I got in it for, right?
Mm-hmm. Such a great point, man. Like you said, just their focus goes into everything and, you know, away from the adjustment, away from connection with people, you know, away from the experience that they want people to have. They're focused on all these different things. That's, yeah, I mean, I really haven't heard it put just like that, but that's huge. And because I think our listeners are going to resonate with that for sure.
Think about that for a second, man. Like, we know one of the variables that makes an effective adjustment. Okay, one of the main variables is the consciousness of the chiropractor delivering the adjustment.
100%.
Right? So you'll hear this all the time. Any technique seminar, anywhere you go, any master or you talk to, they'll talk about the present consciousness of the chiropractor at that moment in time when delivering the adjustment into the spine, right?
Yep.
Okay, to allow the nervous system to heal and express health, right? That's one of the main variables. Now, in life, whenever you're in the zone and you don't have a million other things to think about, that's when you do your best work, okay? Like I used to play quite competitive soccer when I was younger. And the time when I used to like suck, when I would have the worst games, is like when my dad or relatives would come and watch me. Because I used to actually like be quite scared playing in front of them. And so I just felt like I wasn't myself. When I'd play, I'd overanalyze. I'd be using my educated brain rather than my innate brain. And so it's like that in practice. If there's all these other things that are going through your head, which, you know, because you haven't got proper systems, then that's not delegated how it should be. then that takes away from that innate expression, and then it affects the quality of the care that you're giving to that person. Whereas when all of that is taken away and you go into practice on a shift and you've got like this tunnel vision, and the only thing that you think about and focus about is delivering the best quality adjustment to the person that's in front of you at that moment, that's when you do your best work, and that's when you have the most fun, and that's when your practice just explodes, man.
Exactly. And then the people, they're getting this, like, the best version of you over and over and over again, rather than this roller coaster, depending on what else you have going on in the office or within yourself. They're getting your best every single time because you had these systems in place that allow you to be able to come through and express that way. And, you know, we've talked a lot about that, just being able to get into that state and having these different anchor points and triggers and training. We've done a ton of training on that, but I don't know if, you know, I've always correlated it to like how important the other systems in the office are for allowing you to get into that state and just kind of lowering some of these, you know, walls that kind of get in the way of that. So such a huge point. And it's so much more relevant now that I'm in practice, because, you know, we were talking about some of these things where I'd be, you know, talking to other DCs, and I could get it from an intellectual standpoint. But now that I'm like in practice and I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually a big barrier to like my presence at times, even if I've trained it, you know, had these anchors and different things that allow me to come into that present moment. Whereas if that had a system in it, I wouldn't even have to like overcome that and use that energy to bring me back into the present. It'd be one less thing that would kind of block me there. So awesome, yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Spot on, man. I mean, you're spot on with it like that, because, I mean, think about it. And your personal life, right? Our personal life is so closely intertwined with our practice life. And, you know, we're all about, you know, you'll hear us say this all the time. You want to build a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life and not instead of one. Because there's just too many DCs that, you know, okay, great, build awesome practices, but their life suffers, or they get divorced, or they get sick, or they sacrifice other areas. Whereas we know that we can develop systems to make sure that all 7 areas of our life are being fulfilled. Our relationships are freaking amazing. Our practice is super successful. We're helping lots of people, right? Our personal health is on an amazing level, and we're fit and we're firing and we're full of energy, right? We know that all 7 of those different areas can be fulfilled, but we need to make sure that there's a process for doing that, and that's what will get you to your success, whatever you define that as.
Exactly. And that was always a big hang up for me sometimes, even listening to anybody who was a guru in chiropractic. I'm like, well, you're on a stage right now and you're communicating really effectively and you're inspiring people, but like, you know, what's your home life like? What's your health like? What's, you know, like you said, these other categories of your life? Because there's something, I want success, you know, in all of those areas. And to be honest, like, I want to be practicing chiropractic for a long time and sustaining my body. And it's just like, I don't know what those other areas of your life look like. So how can I really follow what you're saying right now? Because I don't know if you have what I want. You know?
Spot on, man. And here's the thing. You ready? Nobody is perfect.
Right.
So anyone you look at, anyone you aspire to be like, or who on some level we idolize, and we all have those people, guess what? They've got crap going on. Okay? And the aim of the game isn't to be perfect, man. But the aim of the game is to, you know, be really clear on what success looks like in you, not just in practice, for you, I should say, but in all different areas of practice, and start designing the life, okay, that will cater to that. That's the key, man.
Yep.
That's the key.
Yeah, that was a big lesson for me, is like stop putting, you know, maybe your mentors on such a pedestal, because then they have the farther, how high the pedestal is, they have a farther distance to fall.
Yeah, exactly,
you know?
Dude.
Yeah, so that was a big takeaway for me. But I appreciate the insight, man. Something else that I kind of want to transition to is the, you know, taking people on this journey, you know, through their care and having different objective results and using tests and different things. Again, this has been another, I'm not gonna say controversial, but it's just like I've seen both sides of that. And you know, I think, you know, talking with you, you know, people like to be measured. They like to see the results. And we, you know, with our conversations, we've geared it a lot more towards function. I think that's what, I mean, all vitalistic chiropractors want to get away from the pain. But having these objective, tests, results, scans, whatever it is, to be able to show people along the journey, but yet not get so stuck in that they miss the big picture of what's actually happening. Because I don't want to define chiropractic as you've got a better scan, but you shared with me, it's just like, that's important, along with having these other workshops and these other avenues of education and inspiration for people to get the bigness of, what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, man. So let's dive in a little bit with this topic, because this is really interesting. Let me tell you this. So most of the time when somebody comes in to see us, and first of all, let me just say this. I get it, right? I mean, I'm in the chiropractic world. I eat, breathe, I sleep, think chiropractic. Like, this thing is my life. I'm speaking in different areas in here, in the US, right? Like, I love chiropractic. But guess what? Most people in the general public don't care about chiropractic, okay? Guess what they care about?
Results.
Results and themselves. You're spot on, bro. The thing they care about is themselves. Now, most people will come and see us, not usually as the first port of call. Okay, they won't come in and see us and say, hey man, I've been having this issue, and so I thought I'm going to come here and check you out, right? Now, that does happen like later, okay, but the majority of people come in on some level having a problem or a perceived problem in their head. Even if they come in off a talk or something you've done and they've written on their wellness check, there's something on some level that's inspired them to come in, okay, because they feel as though you may be able to help them lead a better life on some level, right?
Some need unmet that they have that they think you can help with. Right.
Basic business principle, right? Problem, solution. I'm hungry. I need food. Let's go buy food. Problem, solution. I need a laptop because I need to get into the internet. Go find Apple if you know what you're doing, right? And you buy yourself an Apple, right? Right. So what I'm saying is, like, problem, solution. That's basic business. That's how it evolved from prehistoric days. Okay. So people come in with a problem. Now, the first step that we as their chiropractors need to do is actually earn their trust. Okay, you get it? You have to earn their trust, because I get the whole thing of improving function and optimizing health performance, and dude, we can allow the innate to flow and your body to express health or optimal. I can talk that spiz all day long if you want to talk that conversation, okay? But the thing is, that person, when they come in, has a basic need that needs to get met. Now, when that need is met, or that problem is addressed, okay, or they at least have hope that, you know what, this problem is going to get addressed, then the walls come down. And when the walls come down, that's when the conversations change. Okay? That's when the conversations start to evolve. And that's when you can start to have conversations around subluxation and innate intelligence. And, when we adjust you, the adjustment isn't just to get rid of pain. The adjustment is there to help your body function at its optimal, just like how you eat well and how you exercise well, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, but someone that's coming in, dude, with a problem, and we're talking that kind of spears, right? They're just thinking, dude, just fix my issue, because I don't even know if what you're talking about is true. Once you've proved yourself, dude, that it's true, and it doesn't take that long. It's not a hard process if you do it right. Once you've shown them, hey, this principle, dude, that I spoke about, that you kind of raised an eyelid about at first, now for yourself, you can actually see that, great, you got results in this principle. There's something to this. Suddenly that person then opens up and is like, all right, tell me more. Now, there's a process to make that happening. Mm-hmm. And there's a law in influence literature. We know it, right? You can measure it. It's called the Hawthorne effect. And the Hawthorne effect states and talks about people and humans progress and make better results when they know that they're being checked, monitored, and measured. Look it up in Google, Hawthorne effect. Okay? And one of the biggest complaints, dude, when I talk to the general public, and I mean, we do, as you know, Ray, like we get a lot of new patients. We really know how to get new patients. Like, we do hundreds of external talks every year, right? And one of the things that people always come up to me and they say is this: man, I loved what you said in that workshop. It's so true. I'm coming in to check you. But you know what, dude? I saw a chiropractor. I've seen a chiropractor before. And then I'll say to them, so, like, why did you stop, right? And here's the number one reason they would say. They wouldn't say anything like, oh, I didn't like them or they were crap or anything like that. What they would say is this: I don't know, it just kind of felt like it lost direction. Like, it felt like I wasn't really, and they're looking for the word, and then they go, progressing. As humans, we all crave and get fueled by progression, not necessarily the outcome. But if we see progression, that's what fuels us, okay? We owe it to the people that we serve to be able to demonstrate to them progression, knowing that that's going to increase the chances massively, exponentially, of them staying under care longer to experience better results. Because we know who gets the best results, long-term care or short-term care. Who gets the best results, bro?
Long-term.
Exactly.
Lifelong.
Exactly, man. So these are the principles. These are some of the systems. These are the things that when you master, you actually help people get better results and get the big picture, because once they get it, dude, the walls come down, different story.
Yeah, totally different story. I mean, you think about someone who's comes in for a few months and then stops versus the person who comes in for a year and then stops. And then you think about the person who comes in for 2, 3, 5 and then gets their family and then their grandkids, and then it's just like, that's how we're going to shift the paradigm, shift this world. It's just like those long-term, people who are under care. Because I totally believe like the adjustment has this like exponentially compounding like effects over long term. It's just like it was someone on the Kairos training page that was talking about the biggest difference of someone be like, I've been to a chiropractor. That's like saying, I've eaten well, or I've exercised, versus I exercise, I eat well, I go to a chiropractor. It's like, it's so different when it's like, it's part of my life. This is part of my routine and evolution and who I'm becoming. Like, so you're right. I love that perspective, and just putting it that way, just I think will allow our listeners to really hone in on, these systems that are going to allow for long-term care with people. And you're right. They want to be measured and taken on this journey. And I mean, I've had the same thing happen. I mean, I've seen other providers and I get to a point where I'm just like, I don't really know where I'm going. Like, I'm paying a lot of money and I don't really know where I'm going. So, I mean, it's happened to myself. So I exactly know what, I know what people are going through there.
Dude, your retention, what we say, your retention in practice, and retention is what builds great practices, okay? Your retention is a reflection of your clarity. So if your clarity for the person and their journey is super evident, that person knows exactly where they're at, they know exactly what the vision is, they know exactly what their goals are and how you're going to help them continue to achieve those goals, that's the key to retention, and that's the key to building practices, right? I have this basic premise in my life. All of us live our life by a set of principles. It's our philosophy, right? Whether you've defined your philosophy or not is a different story. But one of the defining premises in my life that I find serves me really well is I am only interested at this point in long-term relationships, because long-term relationships for me are the most fruitful. And I take different examples. So long-term relationships with my spouse, right? Would I be into transitional relationships? No, dude, I'm not into that. Long-term relationships with spouse, best results. With friends, right? With mentors, with coaches, with teachers, with people, with practice members, right? With the people that we serve. Long-term relationships for everyone is win-win-win. Short-term relationships, transitional relationships, right? They don't create any long-term fulfillment. So we owe it to ourselves and our practice members to set up predictable processes that lead to long-term relationships.
Huge, man. Yeah. And I don't know. That just kind of gets me inspired just thinking about like taking care of someone and then seeing their family and then like seeing their kids grow up. And then it's just like that, I think will allow you will inspire you as a chiropractor so much more than, seeing someone for 10 visits and then they're gone, and seeing the next person 10 visits and then they're gone. So it's just like, I think that will wear on you over the years, It's
absolutely, man. And it's like changing best friends every second week, right? You're like, oh, you're my new best friend. Hey, bro, we'll be gone in 2 weeks, man. It's like, screw that. Who wants that kind of life?
Right. And then, you think about the possibilities of care for someone who's, with you for a lifetime, the impact that could have on their life versus what I'm not going to say that you can't have a huge impact in, a couple months of care, because you can. I'm not going to minimize that, but like, it just doesn't compare to someone who's with you for a lifetime.
Absolutely, man. And again, that's a philosophical question. Like, people ask the question, okay, so do you look after those people also that, would you want a short-term fix? That's a personal philosophical thing for each person to decide on their own, right? You can say, hey, you know what? Yes, I do. And then once I earn their trust, then I open up their walls to the potential of a long-term relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay. But once you earn their trust is the first step, man. You know, we live in this world where everyone has their walls up more and more. We are bombarded to and marketed to in every single kind of corner that we turn around. And so we have these natural walls, or this kind of bullcrap meter that's always up. And the minute that goes down and you open yourself up and you let someone into your life and you trust somebody, that's a different story, man. And one of the things that allows practice to be easy, like if you rocking up every day having to carry the practice, I can tell you, the bigger that your practice gets, the harder it is to carry and the more drained people get. Whereas if you can show up to your practice and show up like a leader, and you don't have to carry anyone, dude, but people are inspired by your vision, that's greater for them than what their own vision was once upon a time. People will allow you to lead, and you can serve a massive amount of people like that, and you can show up after a shift and be full of energy and not be drained and exhausted. That is the key, my friend, to longevity, and that is the key to fulfillment in this thing called chiropractic.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm inspired by this conversation, and something that you said right there, and I think you might have been, referring to inspiration of the people that you're taking care of, but do you relate that to your team as well? Like inspiring, having a vision that is, I don't know if it's bigger, but it encompasses the vision of your team. And I know I just took a left turn right here, but that's something I've always wondered. It's just like, I have this vision of my life, but you have to build the team around that as well. And it's just like, I have to be able to do this, but yeah, I want to inspire somebody else to work with me, like just for maybe a new doc who's trying to build a team. So it's just like, how do you go about that, knowing that maybe this other person is chiropractic is definitely maybe not their dream or their vision, or whether it's a CA or it's like, someone that you're working with in the beginning.
Dude, that's such a deep question, right? That I can't even believe that you're thinking about, which is so freaking inspiring. Like, that's awesome because team is everything. I was guilty of this. I was guilty of coming out of school, right? And I was like, all right, I'm this powerhouse. I can do it all. Just get out of my way. I'll do all of it, right? And I quickly realized, I can do all of it for maybe about 20 visits a week, right? And then after that, everything just falls to the crap. Mm-hmm. But team is everything, man. The only things that I do in my life now is literally adjust within practice, adjust and speak. They're the two primary things. 90% of my time goes into that. Everything else is dedicated and delegated to team. Now, the key to team, again, is long-term relationships. The key to long-term relationships with your staff and with your team is you always start with the heart first. So you'll hear us talk about this. We'll say heart, then head, then hands, then feet. What that means is that people will be inspired by your vision, because we live in this world where most people are walking around, dude, and they haven't really even defined their vision. And so they'll be inspired by your vision if there's somebody there whose values align. And there's a way to do this. There's a way to attract people when you're looking for team whose values are aligned with yours, okay? And when your values are aligned, and then they understand the why behind your cause, okay, and they truly understand it, and they not only understand it, but they actually help contribute to it. So the team then also owns the why, and it's not you always pushing the team, but instead you're all pushing this thing together. Dude, people will march to the ends of the world to help that kind of person. In fact, history has shown time and time again, like civilizations have been formed and destroyed based on ideas and based on inspirations of why. So there's more super solid you can get on your why, dude. Why do we do this thing called chiropractic? Why do we try and serve these people? What's the real reason behind it? And we can craft that in a way that's articulate, and we can communicate it effectively. Yeah, you'll not only inspire your team to help you and recruit you, you inspire your practice members as well, and you'll recruit them and they'll go tell other people, man. Same thing.
Good shit, man. This is amazing.
Get it?
Yeah.
And then you build the systems on the back of that. So that's the heart, right? Heart, head. The head means, all right, I need process to do this. What's the process? Well, guess what? That's been done too, right? So then there's systems behind it, and then the hands and feet is the action, is the doing. So you can talk to me and I can say, all right, dude, here's how you execute this, here's how you execute that system, here's how you rock external workshop or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
But then it's up to you also to go and do it. And that's the hands and the feet, man.
All right, brother. So I imagine, we've got some young docs listening, some students listening, and this, might be a little bit overwhelming. And obviously you've shared with your past of just the importance of mentors and coaches and really surrounding yourself with the top 5. I've got a thought here of just what would you say to some of these young docs and students, as they're beginning this journey and they're hearing this and they're like, holy cow, I've got some serious work to do. And, I would say maybe the big answer is like that mentor, that coach, finding someone who can find those blind spots. On top of that, what comes to mind when sharing maybe some powerful next steps, some exercises for them to do, and just basically those next steps for them listening.
Love it. I love it, man. So when you're aiming for a target, okay, if you're hitting and missing, you at least know if you're doing well or you don't know, or you know if you're doing well, if you're doing poorly, because you're aiming for a target. If you have no target that you're aiming for, then you've got no freaking clue. Are you doing well? Are you doing great? Are you doing crappy? You're not sure, okay? And it amazes me how many people are going through life with being unsure what their target is. First step number 1, dude, is this. Be super clear on what your target and what your goals are. So going back to what we spoke about, have that 3-year, 5-year, 1-year vision super clearly defined. How does my life look? Because it's my life. You get to live life on your terms, right? You get to design your life, dude. It's up to you. Jim Parker used to say, if it's to be, it's up to me. What that meant, man, is that it's up to you to first of all define how you want that to look. And that's your definition of success. Don't take mine. Don't take anyone else's. Sit there and put a good amount of time into defining what that is, because what you're actually doing there is you're setting up the goal, right? You're setting up the aspiration. Remember, as humans, we don't get satisfied by hitting the goal. We get satisfied by progression. And if you don't have a goal, it's very hard to judge progression, okay? So the first thing, dude, is get super clear clarity on what is the goal, what does that ultimate level of success look like for you in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, man. When you've got that clearly defined, okay, I would say that 70% of the work is done and you're already way ahead of the game. Then backwards engineering, man. Once you've got that goal, it's a simple case of like, okay, if that's what's to happen, what kind of income would I need to make? Okay, how many people would I need to adjust? Okay, because I also want to have this many days off to be able to spend time with my wife and have my family and all that kind of stuff. So I need to adjust this many people in this model of technique that I practice, whichever way that is, in this many shifts. And you start to suddenly see all these kind of bits coming together, right? For me, I can share mine, man. I'll be vulnerable. I'll share mine. Mine for a long time when I was in practice was like, all right, I started to realize that the different levels of success I got to, you hit a certain income level where you have everything that you need, right? As a student coming out, I wasn't there that long ago. You're kind of this student, you sacrifice 4 or 5 years, you just want to start making income, right?
Right.
And so for me, I was like, all right, my mates were all out there in the building game. They were earning, a couple grand a week. I was like, all right, I just want to hit a couple grand a week, right? And I realized that as I would go through those levels and start to exceed them and just smash through them, that the amount of income that you make doesn't proportionally increase your happiness. You just end up buying more stuff you don't need, right?
Right.
Okay. So it's not the income that satisfies you, but set the level that you need to live out the desired life that you want. Then in that, how many days off do you want? Okay. How much time do you want to be able to spend away from chiropractic or with your family or with your kids, all these kinds of things? And then it's very easy to plug that in. I worked out for me, all right, man, I need to adjust 150 people a week. This was at the very beginning, right, when I was just fresh coming out. 150 people a week to get to a point where I'm self-sustainable, I can live my own, live with my wife, be happy, have everything that I need. And as soon as I got clear on how I was going to get to 150, and then I put the systems in place to get myself there, I hit it within 12 months easy, right? And then I just continue to do that every single year. We sit there and go, okay, where we are now, where do we want to be in 12 months' time? What does the backwards engineered step need to look like?
Right.
Get that?
Got it, man. This is a good transition into my, I guess, a final question before I hit you with a quick fire round. So on that note, then, what are you most excited about as it relates to your art going forward? And that could be art of business, art of communication, and ultimately just what's possible with chiropractic.
Dude, I love chiropractic. I mean, I live this thing, and I selfishly want to see chiropractic go out to the masses within my lifetime. We believe, bro, that the world was flat. Listen to this for a second, right? We believe that the world was flat from from 800 BC to 15 AD. Okay, so over 2,000 years, we believe the world was flat, everyone. And if you said the world was round, you were ridiculed, violently opposed. Then suddenly, overnight, we discovered that the world, because Columbus circumnavigated the globe, that's round, and suddenly everyone's belief changed. We have this understanding of chiropractic and the principle of chiropractic, right? The science, the philosophy, and the art, all three components of it, okay? I don't want to have to wait 2,200 years before everybody else sees that. Now, I just look at the word wellness, dude, the word wellness. The word wellness is a chiropractic word, right? I'm going a bit of a rant here, but I'll have to go with it, right? The word wellness is a chiropractic word, okay? You go and you ask 20 people on the street, have you heard of the word wellness? They'll say yes. You ask them, do they associate with the chiropractic? 95% will say no, okay? So we failed, dude, because we didn't, as a profession, get our crap together to take that out to the masses. Now the wellness industry, get this, the wellness industry was a study done in New York 2 years ago, right? The wellness industry is a $3.3 trillion industry, okay? The pharmaceutical industry is a $1.3 trillion industry. So the wellness industry is massive, but no one attributes that to chiropractic. For me, that A, pisses me off, right, a lot. But in history, when people get pissed off enough, that's when stuff actually starts to happen. And B, it excites me because it makes me realize that we need to band together, we need to work together, we need to learn from each other. I've made mistakes. You don't need to make those same mistakes. You can learn from our mistakes, right? We can band together, learn from each other's mistakes, have reproducible things that work, and actually, I've always said the key to a more successful chiropractic is more successful chiropractors. If we have more successful chiropractors, we inspire more students, we inspire more people to become chiropractors, and we inspire more people to become vitalistically, philosophically based chiropractors, okay? But if someone is struggling to keep the doors out, bro, I hate to break to you, but we're not inspiring anyone. So for me, the artistic expression, man, is within my practice. I love practicing. We have a couple of practices, but it's also external, like helping, teaching. You know, I've always been the kind of guy that's like, hey, dude, I've learned this works, check this out, right?
Yep.
And so just taking that out to within the profession and helping other DCs, right? Just achieve the levels of success that I know that they can in short periods of time.
Love it, bro. All right, man. This has been such an awesome podcast. I definitely want to pick out a couple of these quick fire round questions. At this point, you know, you've had a ton of mentors. How do you choose to continue to kind of have that beginner's mind, and who are some of your mentors kind of going forward at this point with, you know, the level of success that you've had?
Yeah. So always rule number one, whenever we're looking for associates, rule number one, be coachable, be open, be coachable. That's the first thing, man. I realize that no one person knows everything. No one. But together we know a lot more than what we do individually. So for me, I've always picked mentors and people that I resonate with. Funnily enough, one of my main mentors in chiropractic is someone who I heard on a podcast very similar to this about 5 years ago now. That's Dr. Stephen Franson. Stephen Franson, I'm on the phone to that guy literally like every second day. Patrick Gentempo, super close with Patrick Gentempo as well. Chat to him really, really often as well. Those two would probably be the two that have influenced me the most in my career. Then there's other people that I've been close with, like Chris Sano as well, who's kind of influenced a lot by the way that I practice. And then there's the guys, you know, like Reggie Gold and Sid Williams, and you know, just these icons and people that have come before us, like these giants whose shoulders that we can stand on. And in that pack there, those people really kind of have carved me out a lot.
All right. In terms of, you know, something that impacts you emotionally right before you have to serve, and, you know, you do your best to have systems in place for certain things not to happen, but sometimes you can't get around it. Some rough news or whatever it is. How do you allow yourself to come back into that moment?
Realizing that the person that's there lying in front of me doesn't care or doesn't know what's happened in my day today. And when I say doesn't care, I don't mean that in a rude way, like doesn't care if something bad's happened. But what I mean is they're in there, think about this. they've entrusted their life in your hands on some level. They're allowing you to put a force into their body, of which they have one, right? Because they believe and understand what you're saying. And that is a sacred trust, like BJ said, right? You've been gifted with a sacred trust, guard it well. That is a sacred opportunity every single time that you put your hands on somebody.
Are there any activities that you see that young docs are spending an unbalanced amount of time on in regards to their training?
Okay, so I need to say this carefully, but I see a lot of docs that think that expanding their toolbox is the way to go, and they start getting all these different techniques, which is cool. That's fine. But I've always been a proponent of someone who you should go deep in an area rather than going wide. People will pay you millions and millions and millions for mastery in one area. But a jack of all trades, okay, that doesn't have as much value. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, one of his principles, the 13 principles, one of them is specialized knowledge. And specialized knowledge means that of the 500 of the people, most successful people that he interviewed, they had specialized knowledge, which means in one area, they had a really deep level of understanding that they gained through mentors, through understanding, through people they surround themselves in. And I find that so many DCs spend all this time and trying to widen this toolbox, okay, which is great, but they don't actually master one thing. And the one thing that we have, and I could rant again, but I won't, the one thing that we have that no one else has is the adjustment, right? No one else has the adjustment. That's what we have. We need to own that space, and we need to continue to develop our understanding, our artistic expression, and the way that we deliver the adjustment.
Yeah, I just a quick reflection on that. I think my theory is that so many docs, throughout the world continue to expand, and they want to widen their toolbox in so many different ways, often because they haven't seen the possibility, they haven't seen a master adjustment, or they haven't seen what's possible, and they think they're only limited, to what they've done, and they're like, oh, this is not very good. I got to keep doing some other stuff. So yeah, just wanted to add that in there.
You hit it out of the ballpark, man. There's miracles happening every day, but you won't see them if you don't look for them.
All right. How about daily practices that you've contributed to your ability to serve at high level? Anything that jumps out?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny. It's the thing that we preach to all our practice members. Look after your health. Yeah, you really need to look after your health physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, which means you should be getting adjusted regularly. Are you on a care plan? Do you know what that care plan looks like, right? Do you know your listings? Do you know your x-rays or whatever objective testing that you're using, okay? Are you exercising regularly? Are you maintaining the body and maintaining the mind? Because I can tell you, early on in practice, right, I thought I was so busy I didn't have time for the gym. Oh, I didn't have time for it, right? And you know what, man? I was adjusting 27 people that week. I remember that. I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time for it. And I lost all this weight over a period of 2 or 3 months, and I was adjusting like between 25 to like 35 people, right? Now I look at that and it's like, what was I doing with all my time? So daily principles, man, look after your body, because when you're healthy, your energy is right, and energy is everything. When energy is up, practice is up. When energy is down, practice is down.
All right. Favorite books, resources, podcasts?
All right. So what do we got? So books and resources. Man, I mean, for me, books, I love, there's a few old classics like Napoleon Hill, I already mentioned a few times, Think and Grow Rich. I was given advice by actually Dr. Jules Lamarche, when I was in school. Buy this book and read it once a month for a year, right? And I did that, Think and Grow Rich, and I still read it every year. 13 Principles, he interviewed, I think it was 500 of the world's top achievers. I think it was over 100 years ago now. And he found 13 principles that were common to all of them. And to this day, those principles are still expressed through so many avenues that you see. So Think and Grow Rich is massive. In chiropractic world, I love all the philosophy books. I love from the old stuff, like BJ stuff, which is a little bit harder to read, to the more newer stuff like Fred Barger's stuff and Reggie's stuff and those videos and resources online, dude. There's like so much free stuff out there that is just freaking amazing, right? Podcasts. Like this podcast, dude, I mean, how good is it? You just get on and you listen to this whenever you need when you're working out in the gym. So, in those areas, that's where most of my idle time goes into.
Awesome.
Studying that, yeah.
How about, all right, last one, man. Effective recuperation strategies. You just mentioned that you're taking care of your health. What gets you away and kind of rejuvenates you?
So I look at it like you've got this battery, right? And the battery is full after, let's say, a holiday, right? Then as the days go by, you look after your body, do all the right stuff, and that battery recharges, but it never quite recharges to 100%. It recharges to like 99, 98, 97%, right? And in order to do that, you need to be making sure that you're exercising regularly, you're getting adjusted regularly, right? Clear nervous system, you're eating healthy, you've got a great social circle around you, and you're getting time for breaks and realizing that replenishment is a valid activity that you need to do, okay? But then regularly taking big breaks. So, my wife and I, we take a holiday every quarter. Like we go hard for like 90 days and we take a break. This year we had 9 weeks of holidays, dude, which is freaking awesome. We went to Europe. We've been there to the US multiple times. Now Christmas is coming around. We're going to have a couple weeks off, right? And those bigger breaks every quarter just completely recharge the battery. And then that just allows you to continue to serve at your highest level.
Awesome, brother. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm just so grateful for the time that you've so generously gave to me and our listeners, and us really not even like I haven't even have a big relationship with you. And I jumped on. I was like, dude, you want to do a podcast? And you're like, yeah, let me know when. And that's just something that I really, really appreciate. And I can really only imagine what your schedule looks like, but still taking the time to give back. So I'm just like really appreciative, and I think our listeners are going to have a ton of value and a ton of takeaways. I know I'm going to have to listen to this one a few times to get all the golden nuggets, but I'm just really grateful for your time, man.
No, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing. It's super inspiring as well to see, especially other young, like switched on DCs with this common cause to drive the profession forward. Thank you, man, for having me, and yeah, hopefully I get invited back one day. Who knows, huh?
Sure, hell yeah. We'll definitely have a round two. But for our listeners who, they really resonated with what you said and just want to stay connected with you, what are, whether it's social media or resources, or how can they continue to follow you or look into coaching or whatever if they are feeling inclined to?
Yeah, super simple, man. I say this to everyone. I'm Gen Y. So easiest way to get a response, just message me on Facebook, dude. I'm on Facebook. I'm super responsive, right? Otherwise, you can email me as well. I'm just Dr. Bobby, DRBOBBY @theremarkablepractice.com for those who use email. But social media, dude, I'm there. If you've got questions, you want to chat about anything, just reach out. I'm super available.
Cool. Awesome, man. We'll definitely have you on for round two. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. It's been awesome.
All right, TAC listeners, if you enjoy this one, head over to iTunes or Stitcher so you can subscribe to the podcast and get an automatic download of our newest episode each and every week. While you're at it, we would love a review, a comment, a rating, anything that will allow us to reach more docs and more students and continue to raise the bar in chiropractic performance training. If you haven't yet checked out the artfulchiropractor.com, you can do that for show notes for this episode and previous ones, along with any of the resources that our docs are dropping. And if you haven't yet checked out the Kairos Training Culture Community Facebook page, you have to get there, send a request with a message of who you are and why you want to be a part of the group, because there are so many amazing golden nuggets that are being dropped every single day that are elevating the chiropractic performance game. So with that, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your week as always, and until next time, peace.